How many times in your military career have you heard your boss say something like, "I'm the boss, we're going to do it my way"? It happens to all of us. Usually the boss does get to call the shots. Do you have the courage to speak up when it's required? Because sometimes you have to. People get awed by rank. Someone outranks them in the military and they automatically give that person power. Or people get caught up in what's called groupthink, where if everyone else is going along with it, I should too. But there are 3 important times when it's necessary, absolutely critical for you to speak up. And I want to talk about those today. You must speak up to help prevent a bad decision. You must speak up when it's morally right to do so. And you must speak up when it's a matter of life and death. I'll give you some examples. This is probably the most common one. Say you're sitting at a meeting and the conversation's going, the boss is putting forth ideas and people are saying, yes sir, sounds great. Well, what if it's a bad idea? It happens. You have to speak up. You have to raise your hand and say, sir, have you considered this? Here's another alternative. Maybe we could look at this. Here are some reasons why I think this won't work. Now, of course, you have to use respect. We have to be respectful to each other. But by speaking up, you play the devil's advocate. And you inject a new line of thinking into the conversation. And a lot of times it'll lead to something good. You won't always get your way, but at least you've spoken up. The next time when it's imperative to speak up is when it's morally right to do so. As military members, we all have to obey the laws, we have to obey the lawful orders of the officers appointed above us. Well, unfortunately, many times in our history, orders that have been given have not been lawful. Massacres have taken place and hideous war crimes throughout the world because of orders passed down by superiors. No one had the courage to speak up and say, that's illegal, that's immoral, that's a war crime. These are times when time is of the essence, and you might say something like, sir, you really need to stop and consider this, or sir, this is when we have to really consider the ramifications of what we're doing. Because unfortunately, the alternative of not speaking up could potentially be a war crime. And unfortunately, the I was just following orders is no excuse. You can still be prosecuted. The third time when it makes sense to speak up is when it's a matter of life and death. And those of us in the profession of arms, in the military, we deal with equipment and weapons that are designed to kill. It's an inherently dangerous profession. So oftentimes people will take a shortcut when it comes to safety, or they'll mess around with a weapon, or they'll forget the correct procedures. You have to speak up. Be careful with what you're doing. Stop that. You can still be respectful, but sometimes you have to be very, very urgent about what you're saying. If someone issues an order that's false or that's dangerous, you could say, as you were, belay that. Don't do that. And then tell people why. But first you have to create a safe environment, and you have to speak up to do that. In fact, in the world of aviation, there have been dozens upon dozens of air accidents, collisions that have taken place because junior pilots weren't willing to speak up when a senior pilot decided to do something. And because of that, the World Aviation Authorities have instituted what's called crew resource management, where every person on the flight deck has the responsibility to speak up if the pilot or co-pilot is going to do something dangerous. It's absolutely critical, and it is very literally a matter of life or death. U.S. President John F. Kennedy once said that the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. Well, I'm asking you to do something. If something doesn't seem right, if something is a bad decision, if something is morally wrong, or if something is a matter of life and death, say something. As military leaders, you have an obligation to speak up, and I expect and challenge every single one of you to do just that. much.